The scene in Olympia really focused around chaos radio. There wasn't necessarily a lot of live performance. However, there was some media coming out of there. Op magazine was coming out of Chaos. Chaos was one of the most radical radio stations in the United States, and it remains so. It had a very unique policy that prioritized independent releases. It was a community radio station that believed that it should prioritize records that were actually made from people in the community. Okay, and that was pretty revolutionary at the time. So it had a tremendous library of small label releases that were broadcast by people like Calvin Johnson, who started K Records, and John Foster and Steve Fisk and so forth. And as I mentioned, Op magazine came out of Chaos, and the Sub Pop fanzine came out of Chaos as well. So I would say there was a core group of people thinking about music a lot, as opposed to experiencing a lot of live shows.
Bruce talks about his experience at Chaos. For me, it was KCMU. And I went to work at KCMU in late 1982. And Bruce was also a DJ at KCMU. And it was also, I think, in its own way, it's, you know, definitely inspired a lot of cultural happenings in the city, and it inspired a lot of people to take the community much more seriously, both people who came from outside the city and heard the station, and people who actually participated in the station's goings-on, and of course the local listeners who would listen on a regular basis. KCMU was one of the first avenues where a lot of bands would actually get airplay, and that was a very important vehicle for this city's scene to gain some sort of sense of legitimacy.
John and I were both doing shows on KCMU, and John's show was Audio Oasis, where he was featuring local music. My show was Sub Pop, and I was showcasing independent releases from around the country. So I was taking a more bird's eye view to what was going on in different regional scenes. And in retrospect, I think it was a very interesting coming together of skills and interests there.
Yeah.
Because there was a point by 87 where I realized that Seattle had a really interesting music scene going on. And so I stepped back from trying to network different regional scenes, and I wanted to focus more on what was going on in Seattle. And because John had given so much of his attention to the city, it was a very interesting coming together, and that's when we wound up opening our office and going full-time with this. When we started the company, I just want to point this out, that there were several people who thought that we did not know what we were doing.
Really?
Yeah. And I think those people were visionaries. Because they could see how delusional we really were.